Hey guys, I'm Iffy, one of your co-hosts. Thank you so much for tuning into the Get Paid to Live podcast, where we explore how to intentionally design a life where you live first and get paid second. Whether you're an entrepreneur, you work for someone else, or you're just curious about how to create your dream life, in these episodes you'll find the inspiration, the tips, and the motivation on how you can navigate that process through our honest reflections as new entrepreneurs. We have such a juicy episode today, and I can't wait to dive in. But before we do, we want to take a few minutes to tell you about a new end-to-end recording and podcasting platform that can help you find your dream audience and customers called Riverside. It has such a beginner-friendly interface, and it's super intuitive even from the first time that you go in. This way you can spend less time tinkering with fancy editing softwares and spend more time clarifying your message, what actually matters. It's powered by AI to cut out speech breaks, create clips automatically, and transcribe your videos. So no more manual captions. These are just a few of the many features. Personally, some of my favorites are the high quality recording features, the magic clips, the captioning, and the teleprompter screen that comes up when you're recording. We've used a high quality recording to host 2 international guests virtually, and it was so easy for them to join, set up. All they had to do was press a button and they were brought into the studio at the max quality for their computers and audio. You can even record up to 4K and adjust the audio pre or post production to make it sound like you're in a studio. I love using the chat features, the script, and the teleprompter to stay on top of discussion points. And it's not just for podcasters. If you want to edit long or short form video for Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube Shorts, or even host a live stream, it's got you covered. They have so many fun features to play around with. You can even add in customized branding and animate your captions so they move when you're speaking. And lastly, with the Magic Clips feature, we're able to make 10 plus pieces of content from one episode in literally just 1 second. I'm not kidding. You press a button and it creates these different pieces of content for you about the juiciest parts of your episode. So if you're ready to pull the trigger and get your content out there with a frictionless editor and recorder, be sure to use the code IFOMA, which is IFEOMA, to get 15% off your paid plans. And biggest of all, thank you so much to Riverside for sponsoring today's episode. Without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. You cling to your papers and pens. Wait until you like me again. Wait for you. He's so jealous.
I am jealous.
I know, it's obvious. Shall we do this thing?
Yep.
Why are you smiling like that?
I'm not. I just shaved my face.
Oh my God. Hi guys, welcome back to the Get Paid to Live podcast. My name is Iffy. We still haven't got this down.
I thought you were going to introduce me.
I don't want to always introduce you. Then they're going to say the female is overtaking hubby.
It's just easier, you know.
Okay, I'll just do it for the both of us.
Yeah, that's good.
My name is Iffy. This is my fiance, Shaw. He's actually mute. So,
If you would let me get a word in.
right. This is why, by the way, I completely understand if you think I talk too much. I've heard it before. It's just genuinely, Shahin doesn't have that much to say, and I have way too much. So you see how that works?
I'll need to get a calculator.
Anyway, we've got our little drinks. I'm drinking my pumpkin spice latte, which is basically just milk because I like the idea of coffee, but not how it feels in my body. Like espresso, coffee, like whatever. The idea of it is a good time. So what I did this time is I just put a little bit of coffee, and it was very watered. That's why the whole thing looks like this
milk.
Light color, yeah. And I put the Chobani pumpkin spice creamer, chef's kiss. This is the perfect blend. I'm glad I did this.
So I can't drink that because that's like a third of my daily calorie intake. So I'm drinking Topo Chico. 0 calories, diet hack.
Right. Okay, so we thought we would give a little bit of a update. I kind of like this structure where we're like giving
what the hell's going on?
What the hell's going on? Because every episode, actually more than
things change so fast.
We can count. Like things are changing every week, and I think that's what's so fun to document in the journey because I feel like looking back later, you're not going to remember those little pivots.
We're not going to remember this.
Yeah, which is so funny because that's exactly what we're talking about today. It's like kind of documenting all of these things, and I'm always amazed at how much is changing every week because it simultaneously feels like nothing is really happening, but everything is happening all at once. Like it feels like both at the same time, and I don't know how to describe that. And I feel like maybe that's what growth feels like.
Perhaps. I feel I don't want to get too technical here.
Are you gonna start coding?
I'll say, the thing with entrepreneurship, most of the time nothing's happening, and then everything happens all at once. You know what I mean? To use a technical term.
I already know what he's gonna say.
Fat tails.
This is Shaheen at least 730 times a day. Fat tails. It's the fat tails. And most people listening to this are be like, what the fuck is a fat tail? I'll translate it. It's 80-20.
That's it?
80-20 rule, if you've heard that, 80% of the output or result comes from 20% probably of the input that you're putting into something.
But it's like even more extreme than that in business. It's like one or two of your decisions make up like the bulk of your outcomes, you know what I mean? Or like one or two of the days in your journey make up the bulk of the outcomes.
It's just so this is another topic I feel like we need to have an entire episode about, which is it's not the whole journey that is just this constant like uphill battle.
Right.
Like it is an uphill battle, but it's those little decisions or little days in the whole process that take all of that hard work and make it worth something.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting to me because the more we go along this journey of like literally making an idea in our head work into something that is valuable in terms of money or connection or whatever, I'm starting to see that it's these micro decisions. They have these crazy outputs and they're usually right under your nose, which is kind of annoying. You just don't see it. You just don't see it yet, but it's a quick flip. Like somebody gives you a new piece of information and the same thing that you were doing every day, grinding at it, you're like, oh, it's actually not that hard. How I like to think about it, if this makes no sense, is if you've ever used Excel before or you've used any kind of like data tool, because I'm not that advanced, but I know most people have used like an Excel pivot table, Tableau, something like that.
You're blowing people's minds right now.
I highly doubt it. But even if you're not advanced, I'm like talking about the simple stuff. If you're familiar with it at all in Excel or anything, you know that if you just did one shortcut, it like saves you so much time from entering like hundreds of data points or data whatever, like you know, like things like that. That's in my job. We used to do a lot of like entry type things.
Oh, I see. So you're doing things manually, and then you learn this like one trick in Excel, and it like saves you so much time.
Makes everything faster. Or you're struggling with something, you think there's no way to do it, and then you look at some like an error in your syntax, and it's just like a little period in the wrong place that was ruining everything. And you thought that you had to go to all these extremes, talk to this person, get the other team involved, when it really wasn't even that serious. It was like something wrong with what you were doing. Or you just needed to know one little shortcut that would fix everything. And I feel like it's the same thing in entrepreneurship. And I've been it's like, okay, that's cool, but like, how do you use that in your day-to-day? Because it kind of just feels like you're just gonna not get it until you do. But I have used that thinking. Anytime something comes up, I'm like, I know that this is just a gap in terms of like one little discovery that I haven't discovered yet. And it allows me to be a lot more patient. It allows me to be a lot more calm when things are not going my way or things are not working out quick. I'm like, oh, I literally just haven't come across something that someone else who has that thing has come across. And it's a matter of time. How you change that is by kind of putting more lines in the water so that you're attracting more discoveries, basically. That's how I like to think about it. Like in terms of that 80-20 rule, it's like since 80% of that's going to come from that 20%, like you need to do everything you can in that 20% to like create the 80%.
What I got from what you were saying is just to do more. Do
more. Essentially is what I'm saying. Because like if it's not...
You don't really know what is going to be that 20% or... Probably more realistically, what's going to be the 2% that gives you the vast majority of your outcomes. Yeah.
So to me, it's just like do more. And I think that's why it's good to be in an experimentation phase, because you're probably just going to discover something
a lot faster because
Yeah,
you're doing
exactly.
a lot more things.
You just discover faster.
Yeah.
You just love fat tails.
I just love fat tails.
That's
what I
all that was.
I don't know if that makes any sense, anything I said, but I'm still marinating on
You're
it.
still
So
processing.
these ideas.
We're getting it live. We're documenting.
We're
as we go.
documenting our understanding. I think that also plays into our episode today, obviously. It's just like, this is what happens. Like sometimes you just say stuff and you're not 100% yet, but the more you go, you get clear on these ideas. You do.
So let's just jump into it then.
Today we're going to be talking about building in public. If you're doing anything of substance, like you want to make an impact on this world, I find building in public is really important. And I'm just gonna use this moment to kind of like address something that I think it might come off harsh and aggressive, but I think anyone who wants to do something in their life that's a little unconventional kind of needs to hear this.
Okay.
And it's something I've been noticing a lot because I'm a content coach or like consultant, and people come to me for social media stuff. And then I've also been through this entire phase myself. It's like, you need to be okay with like being seen. Like, I get the shy. Yeah, I get the shyness. I understand like people get uncomfortable. I'm not the most uncomfortable in public, but I think it was just because I did like things like debate at an early age. So you just have to get comfortable with it quickly. It's not that I just naturally like, oh my God, had all this confidence. I think everyone obviously has different levels of confidence from childhood, but it's still something you have to develop and maintain. It's a practice. And there's this, I think with the digital world and our generation, everybody's like in their houses and like locked away. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want people to know. I don't want to have to talk about what I do. I don't want to have to like show myself or expose anything. It makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, like showing up online shouldn't be any different than showing up in person. You know what I mean? Like you still live in a world where people see you. Even if they're not seeing you online, they're seeing you in person. So like, I don't truly understand why somebody would be like, oh, I don't want people online to see me. It's like, yeah, it's a lot more people. There comes a lot of consequences with that, which that's why you practice to work up to that, because it's hard to be perceived by a lot of people. That I understand. But most people, when you start off, you're not going to be like instantly famous.
Yeah.
So they get very uncomfortable with this idea of people seeing them and like having to explain themselves or say things, and they get nervous about it. And it's like, that's kind of a requirement of making any impact in this world. Like you need to be seen. Like you can't hide. First of all, you're not going to help the people you want to help.
Yeah.
Also, I think the biggest thing and why it bothers me so much is like it's a way for us to stay comfortable and lazy and not have to be
not stretch yourself, not grow,
not be held accountable, not learn. It's a way to stay like dumb and lazy, and I don't agree with that. And I feel like we kind of see it as like, oh, I'm just not a celebrity. And it's like, you don't need to be a celebrity. You just need to be comfortable with yourself. I think everything online is an extension of who you are. Your algorithm is an extension of who you are. The people you're seeing, how you're like the people you're attracting, like all of this is who you already are. So if you don't like what you're seeing online, if you feel uncomfortable online, you're just uncomfortable in general. You know what I mean? Like that's not an online issue. That's like a you issue. And I feel like that's something that needs to be addressed in general. Like you need to be okay with that. If you're not comfortable being seen by people, you're just not comfortable with yourself in general. And it's like, get comfortable with yourself, and you're not going to give a who sees you online because you're secure.
Yeah.
It's a sign of insecurity to me. And I think we need to stop normalizing that. It's not that to say that everybody's meant to be a content creator and everybody's meant to be a celebrity or whatever, a public figure, but it shouldn't bother you to be seen.
What you were saying with like, you're going to make an impact on people's lives. You can't like hide, you know what I mean? You have to be able to be seen. So it's even more general, at least it seems from what you're saying, than just content creation. Like even if you're not making any content, if you're still doing things that are impacting a lot of people, like there are just going to be aspects people are going to know about you. You know, if you're making a big impact, people are going to know about you, even if you don't make any content whatsoever.
Agreed. Like even if your method to building in public or making your impact is not on social media, you're going to have to do it face to face in front of people. And eventually, if you want to make an impact on, more people, it's not going to just be one person. It's going to be 5 people, 10 people, 50 people, whatever. Even if it's just like at your local coffee shop, you're going to have to be okay with expressing yourself and communicating your ideas. Is the same thing. Online, it's just one to many and you reach people faster. But no matter what you're trying to do, if you're trying to change anything in this world, you need to be okay with yourself, because if you're so wrapped up in your like insecurities and I'm hiding this and hiding that, how are you thinking about the people you're serving? Like you literally can't. And I think that's like a actual flaw of like beginner content creators, is like they're so wrapped up in me, what do I want to do? How do I, like, you tend to not reach a broader audience or attract the right audience because you're so wrapped up in things that don't matter. You're wrapped up in your insecurities. So you literally can't focus on serving the people or giving them the information they need.
There's a social pressure to content creation, and that can either be viewed as a negative side of content creation, or it can be viewed as a positive. So it could be like a weakness or a strength.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is peer pressure, social pressure is a very powerful force on all of us, on our nervous systems, just on how our brains work. So you can either have that be the reason you don't share what you're trying to do, like basically hold back or hinder your impact.
Yeah.
Or you can allow it to be a forcing function, to be something that helps refine and drive your growth and development. Because, if you're not the best version of yourself and you show up online, I think people are going to be very quick. They're going to have they're going to have no problem critiquing what's wrong with you and your flaws. So, it just comes down to the mindset. And do you feel that your ultimate goal, your mission, your dream, like however you want to frame it, is that worth the pain or the discomfort that you're going to face along the way?
Right.
Or put another way, like, do you think that discomfort is too great to even try to pursue your dream life?
Yeah, I think when people find a mission that truly like hits them, that truly does something for them, even the shyest of people can look past the discomfort of like hate online or feeling nervous or having stage fright. Like, I think if you feel that deep enough, everybody has something that is so deep that they are willing to put up with shit that they would never put up with. And I think a lot of us don't know that yet, which is why it's important to like over time like discover what that is, because you need it to be worth it. There's a lot of shit online, and I understand why people don't want to be on there and be out and about, because it's you're constantly being perceived. There's always haters, some trolls on the internet. There's always something happening. Also, safety is an issue. There's a lot of things on the internet, obviously. So you need to have a mission that almost like, not to be dramatic, but like you would like die for, like almost be like the martyr.
This is the hill I'm going to die on.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally, this is the hill I'm going to die on, and it's worth it even if I suffer, because at least I'm reaching, because anytime you're reaching mass audience, of course they're going to get even more haters.
Yeah, you're going to get the loons and the crazies.
You're going to get the crazies of all kinds, because you're reaching just more people.
Yeah.
But the benefit is that you're also reaching a lot of other people who need your help, who need what you're putting out there. So I feel like it needs to be worth it for you. And if it doesn't feel worth it for you, then, it's maybe take more time to figure out what that is, And
people with the same mission, on the same journey as you, I feel we didn't properly define what building in public is. You kind of like, you were brewing on something all week. Someone said something to you that did not sit right. They said they can't start their YouTube channel because of some BS reason, and that triggered you, and you immediately just went off.
I'm sorry, guys. I had to say that. Like, don't even get me started again. So I don't mean it in a like aggressive way, but like it's simply put, there's no other way to put it, because I know the frustration of like, I know I can reach these people. I know I'm meant to have this audience, whatever. But I was so wrapped up in myself that I just wasn't seeing the point. And of course, I wasn't getting the results. And I know how frustrating it is
Yeah.
to not get the results. So if you want the results, you literally have to get over yourself
Yeah.
and put yourself out there because someone needs it more than you. Let's properly define what building in public is. Like, what is the act of building in public?
You want me to
You're
go?
like, fuck. I'm not. You're like, I don't want to be seen. I'm not here for that.
So my sense of it is, I mean, there's this new thing called the internet, which sounds so trivial, but no, but really, like 30 years ago, if you wanted to start a business, you needed a significant amount of capital. You needed to go to a bank, you needed investors, you needed a business plan, whatever
Yeah.
that means. There was a high barrier to entry.
Yeah.
But that's completely changed. Like, there's a very low barrier to entry. Everyone's online. Now you can live in the software world, so you can basically build an entire company, one person on a laptop, you know? And so I think what that has enabled is that not only can the delivery of the service be digital and online, but also the acquisition of customers, you know? So like the sales, the marketing, and all that. And people have done this interesting thing where they build their business and then they document, you know, deep within it because it's kind of part of the acquisition strategy. It's part of the marketing strategy. Okay, this is a bit of a long-winded answer, so let me
No,
just
I
try.
think it's a good background.
But yeah, so let me just say it like this. Building in public is essentially like you are on the journey of building a product or service, developing your business,
Yeah.
and you're just sharing it with vigorous honesty and transparency.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
online. And of course, there are infinite versions of this because there's practically infinite businesses that you could create. But an exemplar, I'll say, is indie hackers that I've brought up probably multiple times on the podcast now. But there's like the whole indie hacker genre on Twitter. It's all these
Yeah.
like solopreneurs building SaaS products, and they just share with extreme transparency what it looks like for them to like build their startup, how much they're making, you know, what they're tracking. And I guess it also aligns with the whole open source community. So if you're into like software development or anything like that, like open source is basically where people write code, people write programs, and then they share that code openly on the internet. So it's like open source code, but open source businesses. Like you're literally sharing all aspects of, you know, how it is you're building a business, not just
Yeah.
a software program, computer program.
I think it's, frankly, I think it's genius. So, like, to build in public, I'm obviously biased from my rant earlier.
Yeah.
But I feel like building in public to me is like a diary. It's just
Yeah.
a diary of everything you're doing. It's like if you were to share your diary, I guess. Maybe a little bit more refined,
Yeah.
but it's just
It
like an
doesn't
open
have to
diary
be
of
so raw.
everything you're going through. And
Yeah.
I think to me, it's content. It's just like it's art. Like I see it as like an
Expression.
artistic expression thing, and I feel like this is my number one way of expressing myself. So I love to see it on other people because it's like, ooh, like I get to see inside their, like, it's like a YouTube video to me. It's a music video or a movie. Like it's just someone else's story. Like, you know, I love seeing that. And I think building in public, I've seen it on YouTube, entrepreneurs doing it. I've seen people, even people who don't even know they're building in public. They're just kind of putting their art out there. And then you're watching their whole journey.
Yeah.
Like, I've always loved that. And
Yeah, they're just sharing their story. Like maybe
Yeah.
they're a YouTuber and they're just vlogging.
they're just vlogging like, oh, like I follow this artist, this illustrator, and her Instagram to me is just kind of like a building in public because you're seeing her go through all these milestones of like she's doing these cards in her house, and then, you know, like the next thing you know, she's like working with this bigger brand, and then she has her own pop-up. Like you're just seeing these milestones.
Yeah.
Another company and the founder, she's very open and transparent. She's the founder of Odd Muse, which is a clothing brand. I've talked about it with you a lot. But she kind of does this fun thing where, even though I don't know if she was documenting exactly how she was hitting her milestones in the beginning, now she's showing like the in-depth of every day, like vlogging in her warehouse when shit hits the fan, when there's problems going on. Like, I'm stressed in my car, like something with the factory just happened. And like, she's showing all of these bits, and also retroactively sharing what happened in the past and being honest about it. And I feel like it's a lot of people are starting to come up and do it. Like, I know Grace Beverly, she's another popular like clothing brand founder who does it. The founder of Stan Store, he's like showing his entire journey on LinkedIn and TikTok, and he was like building with the customers. Like, it was Stan Store is like a link in bio type business, and he was actually getting feedback from the creators on TikTok and like putting them into the product, saying, hey, do you like this? Like, this is how we're doing. And he talks about how he gets VC funding and everything. So like, I like this era because on top of the internet making everything so accessible, this is just making it even more accessible.
Yeah.
Like, I think the number one thing that stops people from doing things is they feel like things are not normal. Like, think what they're going through is not normal, and they don't know something's off, something's weird. But then when you see other people building, you're like, oh, they feel the same way.
It feels normal and it feels doable.
Yes,
especially when you like see people who like, I feel like this happened to me recently. Like, you see people who are building in public and they're doing these impressive things, and you're like, oh, wait, I know more than this person. They're kind of an idiot. You know what I mean? And I feel like Hormozy talked about that. He said like him and Layla, they went to some like, like a conference or some private event or something. And this guy was making like 10 times as much as they were at the time. And he was a complete idiot. And they're like, if this guy can do it, then we can do it, you know? I think that's another aspect of it, of people building in public, is that you start to see that it's not as crazy, confusing, hard, complicated as you might think. It's just that you're missing maybe a small piece of information that's blocking you.
Totally, yes, which that also goes back to like, you're just one discovery away from everything working out. And I think why it takes people a long time in entrepreneurship is honestly, frankly, the opposite of this is move in silence movement. Like,
sit in silence.
Sit in silence, because the people who are moving in silence are not moving. They're not going anywhere. And
I think
they're the loudest about it.
So two things came to mind. So one, when you're building in public, the peer pressure, that social pressure, gives you a sense of urgency. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you're, in silence, you're by yourself, no one knows. Like, there are people with extreme discipline, and then they can kind of create that sense of urgency in a bubble, in a vacuum.
In their own world.
In their own world.
Yeah.
But I still feel like those people could go even faster if they kind of pointed the attention, like kind of armed other people,
into their world.
Because now you're doing it for them. And so the second thing that came to mind is that, the fact that you're often just like one small piece of information away from like unlocking something in your own journey, that is one of the reasons why building in public is so effective, is because it's not only entertaining to watch people do things and watch their like behind the scenes in their life, but it's also extremely valuable if they're ahead of you on the journey that you're pursuing or you're interested in.
Yes.
So you're kind of getting like from a content creation standpoint, it's both entertaining and educational to the audience, so it's providing value, which helps you grow audiences. And then I think that's one of the reasons why building in public is just a great way to develop a personal brand, or just to grow an audience.
I think everybody, I'm also very pro personal brand. I just think like that's like the epitome of get paid to live to me. It's like literally being branded on what you already do, what you already enjoy, what you already like. Because it won't feel like you're working. Like, this doesn't feel like I'm it just feels like I'm talking passionately about things that I'm passionate about. It's like, I feel like there's so many advantages to just people putting their stuff out there, because everybody is one discovery away or one little confidence boost away from, living their dream life. And I think when you see somebody who is even 2 steps ahead of you or 1 step ahead of you, and something is clicking and making sense about their journey, you feel more confident.
Yeah.
You feel confident that like, oh, like when you have that moment where you're like, oh, I'm smarter than them. I can do that better than them. Or even if it's not, I'm better than
Right.
them.
It's
It's
like
like
they're not, you know,
they're not
they did it.
extraordinary.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
I can do that too.
You start to feel more confident, and then you show up in that way. And I think that's what's so amazing is when you have the platform and you're building that confidence at the same time, you're literally just because I feel like confidence is just like a belief, but it's like extra. And I feel like when you come across to an audience that way, you attract more people who are like you. You attract more of the people that you're helping because you're just more passionate about what you're already doing. Like, I don't know, it feels like a exaggeration or a marketing effort of what's already there. Like, I feel like marketing just kind of like elevates what's already there. And I think when you are seeing other people, you're feeling confident, you're feeling like aware, you're discovering things, that comes across on your content, whether you're writing things, whether you're making videos, I don't know, hell, even singing a song, whatever it is, like you have a little bit more like surety. And I think that helps you with your goal because you're either getting more customers because people are like, oh, that person knows what they're talking about, or oh, she feels really strongly about this thing. It just comes across better. So I feel like there's obviously downside, but like compared to the upside,
right?
You know.
And then there's another upside in that, you know, not only are you helping people that are 1 to 2 steps behind you, or maybe further behind you, you're just giving them hope and that inspiration, but also the more content you share and the more awareness, like the bigger audience you get, the higher likelihood that someone who's 1 or 2 steps ahead of you finds your content and kind of either, you know, post some comments, they DM you, they are open to a conversation with you, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's just a very effective way for humans to organize effectively and efficiently, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. So we're kind of hinting at a lot of the positives of it.
Yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit about why people don't like to do it and the grievances that come with building in public. I think that's why it makes people who do it like, oh my God, thank you, because you know people don't want to do it. Like, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same stuff as just content creation in general. Like people are afraid to be on camera, a shyness and embarrassment, fear of judgment, you know, all these like typical grievances. I'm not sure if there's, I don't know, maybe you have better advice than me, but like you just got to get over it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. You just got to post, you know, just post a video or something. Maybe the one grievance that isn't applicable to like content creation more broadly is people feel like they're gonna, like other people are gonna steal my ideas. And that's certainly a risk. And that's something that, you know, some of these like indie hackers, like they experience.
Oh,
like,
they experience that.
Yeah, like people steal their stuff. So one example is that Peter Levels guy who I talked about last time. He has this AI image app, you know, something like that. And very quickly, a bigger company basically did the same thing and integrated it into their mobile app in like a very short period of time.
And they could because they're a bigger
Yeah,
company.
they just saw like how popular his product was and how it's going viral, and they're like, oh, let's do that. And so they basically copied it and put it into their app. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, that's a risk, but he was also making like over $100,000 a month. So it's like, okay, so I think most people, they are afraid that people are going to steal their ideas, but that's not going to happen unless it's an idea that actually is valuable, is good, essentially. You know what I mean? Yeah. But most ideas are terrible. Like they don't really, they're not
that, your ideas are not as cool as you think they are.
Right.
Yeah.
And the world's a big place, so there can be 2 people doing the same thing.
Totally.
And especially if you're a small shop, like you're not going to be able to fulfill the full demand of something that people are clamoring for. You know what I mean?
Like, I think that's just kind of like a risk of business that we need to like accept almost. Like
people are going to copy the successful people, you know?
Yeah. And I think your whole identity should not be in how unique your idea is, because it's probably not that unique. We've been around for a long time. Like your idea is probably very similar to something that's been done before, or it's something that can be replicated easily, because ideas are just rebranded every however many years. And I think when you have the expectation that, yeah, somebody could take this, there's less scarcity around, like, oh, I gotta like hide all my tricks and whatever. Like, almost, how could I exist and still add value even if my ideas were at risk like 100% of the time? I think it's better to operate in that like mindset as opposed to like, how can I gatekeep this the most? Because when you're gatekeeping your ideas and all that stuff, I feel like it's kind of like you're shooting yourself in the foot, because one, even though this guy got his idea stolen, he was generating value of $100,000 a month. Like, those are people who are benefiting from his product or his idea. And even though that company took it, he still got to serve his community in his way. And it's like, one, I think that just makes you better for him. Like, he's just going to be like, oh, I got this really good idea. It was taken by this other company, probably a compliment, because my idea was that good that it could make this other company even more money. But how can I improve for the next thing? I think it's just a thing of life. There's going to be people who steal. There's going to be people who lie and cheat and whatever. Knowing all that exists, how can you still benefit from that? How can you still grow? And I think when you come at it with that mindset, you are still able to serve your people, because by you gatekeeping it from the people you don't want to steal your stuff, you're also gatekeeping it from the people who need it and would actually pay you money for this stuff, or you know, do whatever exchange you're looking for. So like, I feel like, you know, when it comes to that idea, like, one, you're probably not as unique as you think, and no, not you. Your ideas are probably not as unique as you think, and even if they are, like, I feel like this is more of a spiritual thing. Like, you're just kind of meant to do things, like basically shit is supposed to happen. It's not like you're just gonna go casually throughout the world and like try to make an impact and everything's gonna be easy. Like, I don't have that expectation. Like, I kind of expect that like your stuff's gonna get copied or your stuff's gonna get stolen. Like, but nobody can do your thing. Nobody can live your life the way you're living your life. You know.
And even if you do share all the secrets, like, no one will implement it the same way as you. And it's really the implementation and the execution that is the differentiator between ideas. Like, between people with the same idea. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Any idea you have, probably many people have had that idea before.
Or are doing it.
But most people don't do anything about their ideas. They just, like, they do what we're doing now. They just, like, talk and they have a drink or something and they just talk about ideas, but then they don't do anything about it. You know what I mean? So who's going to get more out of that value? The person who's just having a conversation about it, or the person who, you know, thinks about it and immediately starts coding it up, or immediately starts, like, you know, getting on the phone to like try to make it happen.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I feel like it's the same thing with content creation too. It's like people are worried, like, if they give away information to their audience, or even like in terms of like, I'm using my content as a lead magnet for the actual service. I don't want to say all of my best practices and tips, or like people wouldn't book with me. And it's like, that's kind of like a mindset shift I had to have too at some point in this journey, which is like, what's the word? The material, the idea, the whatever you're delivering should not be the best part of your business, your content. It's how you do it. It's your approach. It's your personality, which no one can replicate. So I almost feel like I always thought I had to have the best idea. I had to have the best material. That's what's going to make my thing sell more than someone else. But if you look around, how many health and fitness content creators are there? How many beauty content creators are there? There's so many of them, but you watch them all for unique reasons. And I think that's the magic sauce that people keep missing out on. And it's the same thing with business. It's like, I like shopping at several clothing retail shops, but Aritzia is different than Urban Outfitters, and it's just a vibe. Like, they could have very similar products, but it's just the vibe that I get.
So
you know?
It's like building in public, kind of through all these negatives and grievances. It's actually forcing you to build a differentiated and robust business, service, offer, brand, like whatever it is, you know what I mean? It's just forcing you to build it and execute it in such a way that despite you literally sharing all the secrets,
how could it still be valuable?
it's still successful.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that's the recipe for building a great business.
Total. And I think like what's so funny about that is like you'll find that material is usually super simple. Like it doesn't even need to be grand. People just want it from you because they like you.
Yeah.
And people just like it from this company because they agree with that company's values. Like that's the funny part about it. Whereas in the beginning, the entrepreneurs, they're kind of like sitting around like, man, I got this like great idea.
They're picking out ninja costumes.
Literally
so they
just
can move in silence.
They're ready to move in silence so bad because they've been thinking about this complex SaaS product that no one would use.
And they've been writing up the business plan.
They've been writing the business plan that's going to rock everybody's
They've been
world.
researching investors.
And it's like, the funny thing is like, you probably needed like a tenth of that to continue. And but it's so counterintuitive. In the beginning, you think you need to, because you look at the people who are doing it, because not enough people are building public. You look at the people doing it, you're like, oh, they have this complicated, magical system. I have to think of that now so that when I come out with it, I match them. And it's like, actually, if you looked into their material, you would be like, oh, I could write this. And it's not about the material. It's like how they deliver it, how they execute, how they implement. That's what's different. And nobody can do that the way you do. And while that is a huge issue, I feel like people have said that several times about building or sharing, like building public or sharing. And a huge, huge, huge issue with this is people are so concerned about what people think about them. And I feel like that is worth addressing because I feel like Shaheen doesn't really give a fuck. I don't know if I've ever seen you give a fuck about that, but I think there's been times where I have definitely like gave a fuck. You know, like just one, just a 0.5. But I feel like there's been a lot of times where I was concerned about what people think. In the beginning of my content creator journey, before I started posting on TikTok, seriously, I've been creating since I was like a kid, but I feel like a few years ago, that's when I was like, I want to do this like consistently and probably for the rest of my life, like dedicated. And in the beginning, I was like, but I've had people on my TikTok that are like, I know them, so I need to start a whole new account. Like I was very sure about that. Like it wasn't even a comical thing. I was like sure about this. Do you remember? Like I thought I had to do that.
So, yeah.
And for the person who feels like I'm gonna be embarrassed if people see what I'm doing and you know, they laugh, they cringe, they think what I'm doing is lame. This is again very similar to content creation. Honestly, the one and only answer you need is like you just have to move on. Like you just have to get over that.
Just get better.
Get better. And I know that sounds like abrasive and it's hard to be like, okay, how do I do that? I think you need to find a deeper reason. You need to get out of your me zone. And I've been there. Trust me, I have been there. And it took me like years to get out of that. It's about me. Because by the way, I think people don't realize this, but you never have to stop getting over that. You constantly have to keep getting over of this. Like, if that's something that constantly comes through your mind, what is this person gonna think? What do they think? You have to practice that like a skill. Stop picturing it like I either have that or I don't. Like there's just people who don't care and they're good at content, and there's people who do care like me, and I can't make content because I care about what everybody thinks and I'm embarrassed, I'm cringy, whatever. You have to actively choose that every day. I'm like, there's going to be so many times in the journey where you're going to be like, I don't think I'm doing that right. I don't think I'm saying this right. This didn't come out right. Like there's so many of my pieces of content I look at, I'm like, that was pretty bad, or like that was wrong, or like that didn't even make any sense. And I had to know that, feel that, and just be like, I'm going to put it out anyway. Because if I lean into that feeling and constantly comfort myself in my cringe and embarrassment, I wouldn't put out content. I wouldn't put out anything.
Yeah.
But if I actively get over that, like just force myself to like exposure therapy, like, okay, I'm scared, do it anyway. I have anxiety, do it anyway. If you practice that muscle, that will serve you in so many other areas of your career, because you're constantly going to be having to push the bar. You're constantly going to have to be in a whole new group of people, a new setting where you're going to be nervous, you're going to be scared, you're going to think I'm doing this wrong, I'm embarrassed. But because you've been doing it for 10 years and just post it anyway, do it anyway, by the time you get to the point where you're speaking to a stadium, you're like, I already know what this feels like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Right.
You know what I
So
mean?
it's more of like a meta skill of just pushing through. Like you feel this like discomfort or agitation or this
Yeah.
like mental block.
Yeah.
But you just, you push through
Oh.
and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And that can come in many different forms, like what you were just saying.
Yeah, it's like, think about it like stage fright, or
Yeah.
like, I have to talk to this group of people, like people who are great communicators and speakers and whatever. It's not that they don't get nervous and feel the same fight or flight. They just recognize it and they have coping mechanisms and
Yeah.
they do it anyway.
Right.
That's literally the solution. There's no other way around it. Some people are more nervous than others, but either way, you're constantly, the nervous person and the not nervous person, they're going to constantly be hitting points in their life where things are going to get nervous, things are going to get bigger, and the scale is going to keep increasing. And so they have to learn that skill. So you have to, it's kind of like, it's a means to an end. So stop pampering yourself about it and like coddling yourself, because that's not helping you in now, and it's not going to help you later when you have bigger goals to reach. And I think another thing that comes up is like, I think this person thinks this about my stuff, or I don't want them to doubt me or feel this way about me, or like, what if I fail, kind of thing. I think this is like, maybe everybody knows this, but like, one, you just don't know what people are thinking. Like, you can never actually know what they're thinking. And a lot of times what you think people are thinking are things you think about yourself. And because that's all you have. You only have your mind. You don't actually know what everybody else is thinking. And what you think they're thinking originated from your brain. Like, you're the one who said they're thinking this. So
Yeah.
why would
You're
they
projecting.
Yeah, you're projecting. Like, so you have to analyze, like, oh, this person's going to think I'm cringe, or like people from high school or whatever, they're going to laugh at me or whatever. Like, are you laughing at you? Are you cringing at you? Do you cringe at other people? Like, that's just coming from your own habits in your mind. So I think the bigger thing to focus on there, and actually the easiest way to solve this, is like, how can I get comfortable with this? Because that's all you have control over. You don't have control over the people who are laughing and cringing or whatever, and you don't know if they are. So why put that into your orbit? You know what I mean? Even if they are cringing and laughing, doesn't change that you still have to post this TikTok tonight. Like, it doesn't change anything. And that worrying about them is not going to get you to your goal, for sure. Like, if I was worried about what everybody was thinking about me, I wouldn't have put all this stuff out. But I'm happy that I put this stuff out because it makes me proud. I'm getting closer to my goal. I'm learning. And I think you have to, again, reprioritize what actually matters. Is it about all these little things on the surface, or is it the deeper calling, the mission I have to help these people? I want to change the industry. Like, you have to get over the haters, because when you put yourself out there, you're also finding supporters. You're finding people who will keep you in the game. I think that's another problem with the move in silence genre, is that you don't find people who are like you.
You're just at a disadvantage to the people who are building in public,
Yeah, exactly. Because they're finding their people.
Yeah.
And they're finding supporters. And I think I was always scared, like, oh, I'm all of this bad. It just, like, all of this content is bad. It just sucks. But I found a lot of people who are happy to support me. I did not expect that.
Yeah. Most people are happy to support.
Yeah.
Especially people like to live vicariously through others.
Right.
So if it's something that they wish they were doing or wish they had done when they were younger or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think you'll find the more authentic and genuine you're being, I think you will find people who are happy to put you on, because they're like, I wish I could do that, and I'm happy that this person is putting this out there and or sharing knowledge with me or something. People, there's also good people. It's not just bad people or trolls on there. Like, there's people who want to help you. And by the way, like, this is very online. Like, we're speaking about this as like an online thing, but this could be in person too. Like, not everybody wants to create content. Like, I think everyone can, but I genuinely feel like there's a lot of people who don't even need to be on social media. They just like have their community. They're better in person. They attract people with their energy. They're just like better, like hosting little communities or hosting events. Like, that's their thing. And it's all of this still applies. Like, to put yourself out there, you're gonna have to be uncomfortable, but it's worth it because you find the people who are like you. And I think the last thing is just, I think everybody deep down is just scared. Like, if I put my stuff out there, like, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail?
You will. I don't know.
That's a good way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
if you're pursuing entrepreneurship, you're going to fail most of the time. Just like we were saying earlier, like most days nothing happens. Because part of the challenge is that the story doesn't make sense when you're living it.
Yeah.
The story only makes sense in retrospect, you know? So I feel that going through this journey, it's very confusing and it's very fuzzy. I've pivoted many times, but then I'll still post about it. And then it's actually interesting because I feel like if you were to just like watch my videos, it kind of makes sense. Like the story it makes sense, even though like at the time it didn't make any sense.
It's always so fascinating to me because like you living something, you think it's so all over the place, but I don't think I've ever really watched anyone, like genuinely anyone on the internet, and I'm like, that is so confusing. Like I don't think I've ever thought that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I think we all think our shit is all over the place, but then when someone looks at your stuff, they're like, oh, this makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I get
even
it.
if you look at it just from like an outside view, you know what I mean?
Right. And like you just watch because that's life. Like think about your whole life. How confusing has it been? How many ups and downs have you had? But your friends are not like, your shit is so confusing because most people don't remember all the details. You don't even remember all the details. And you like the core is still there. Like as long as the core is there, like all the other stuff tends to gravitate around the core. So it's not like as far off as you think. I think it feels that way because you're experiencing Tuesday over here. You're experiencing last week over here, but like probably like the same shit. You're probably doing the same shit, talking to the same type of people, you know, because that's who you are. And I don't think that changes. And I think it's the same thing with what you're doing in your business, what you're talking about, you know, what you're putting out online or putting out to other people. Like it's gravitating typically around the same things. And it's not as confusing as it looks.
And also the failure is part of the journey, you know?
It is.
And it's just an opportunity to be more transparent, more honest, more vulnerable. Yeah, and grow. It makes the failures, especially if you make content about failures, it forces you to find the moral of the story. It forces you to find the lesson.
You wanna tell the story and end it. Like
exactly.
you wanna I think that's
and people are gonna probably be supportive. Like every time I post about like I was wrong about consulting or I was wrong about YouTube, you know, most comments are very supportive, and even the ones that are critical are helpful because they kind of raise things that maybe I didn't realize or think about.
Yeah, I feel like in my journey, actually the failures have been my best performing content.
People love to see failure.
First of all, everybody's waiting for you to fail, so you might as well just
Give
capitalize off of it.
Yeah,
like
the anti-fragile.
I think that's the benefit of building in public and content in general. Is like you literally benefit from anything, good or bad, that happens to you, because everybody loves these big achievements, and they also love to see people fail. Like we all secretly kind of been like, ooh, even if it's not like in a hateful way, it's like, that's interesting. Like, why did she get a divorce? Or why did, you know, like you're curious because it's like the dark taboo things no one talks about. So when you're finally talking about it, everybody's like tuned in. And now you can actually convert those people just being messy and wanting the tea into supporters or a part of your community. And it's like, that's the beauty of putting your stuff out there. It's like, literally, no matter what happens to you, you're getting paid. And it's like, I don't see why we wouldn't take that opportunity. In our day and age to like literally, like back in the day, you could not get paid thousands of dollars to have like baby daddy drama. Like that was just kind of in between you and your family. Now people can put that on the internet, getting brand deals for that shit. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of amazing. I think to have problems and be able to either get community from it, make sales from it, like get exposure to the thing you actually want them, you know, to be thinking about. I feel like failing and having to pivot and all that stuff makes you it makes you anti-fragile. It makes you I think people
probably don't know what that means though.
Anti-fragile, I'll let you tell them.
How do I say this in a way that's not long-winded? So it's exactly what we were just saying. So a typical situation is that something good happens and I benefit from it. Something that's anti-fragile, it's like the exact opposite. Something bad happens, but then you benefit from it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So an example is like with the content. So
Yeah.
let's say you lose
$100,000.
no, actually, there's a book. There's a book
Okay.
called "What I Learned Losing $1 Million."
Oh, okay, yeah.
So this guy was, he basically knew nothing about trading, but he'd made it very far.
Okay.
Just based on like
Luck.
confidence and
Yeah.
luck, and he really didn't know anything. But then once he lost that $1 million, he finally got on the journey of like learning like the skills of finance and developing his skill set. And he wrote a book about it, which was wildly successful. So that's a great
Yeah.
example of being
It's like
anti-fragile.
how can you benefit from your problems and
Your
your
failures.
failures and things like that? And I honestly think it's good to fail in public because you get more feedback, wanted and unwanted feedback about your journey, and that helps you. That actually helps you improve, because if you're building in silence, I guess, or secretively, whatever you want to call it, you're not getting that feedback as fast. And like I mentioned earlier, it's really just a discovery. You're just a discovery away from something that can help you. Those people who are like gatekeeping their ideas and like, oh, I'm not going to tell anybody. I don't want them to know. What if your idea sucks?
Yeah.
Like, what if it
And
sucks?
it probably does.
It probably does. And you're holding it for who? For God knows what. You're like, I'm going to launch this and it's going to be a
Ship it
secret.
as fast as possible.
You need to be failing as fast as possible. And with an audience, even if it's like you were saying, the critical advice or the supportive advice, like people will tell you. People are willing to go out of their way to tell you something they don't like. And we all know that. So it's like, actually, use that to your benefit. Be anti-fragile. How can this negative feedback actually help me and help me pivot faster? Because you're constantly pivoting as an entrepreneur. So you want to invite that negative feedback, actually. So I think that's why this whole like, I don't want to share, I don't want to do this, or like, you kind of have to see like, is that thought like an insecurity, or is it just me trying to protect myself, or is this helping me grow? Because a lot of times we're holding ourselves back. It's not anything else. It's not that, oh, nobody knows about my idea. They don't get it yet. It's just, it probably sucks. Like, it's just not what people need right now. And you would know that if you put it out there for them to see it. So I think we can use it as a way to hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah.
Also, it gives you a lot more motivation to do it right.
Right.
Because you're like, oh, I gave them like, in this process, if you're building in public, you'll probably see this. You'll put something out and people are like, oh, can't wait for the next update. Like, they're locked in. People want to know the next step.
Yeah.
So even if that doesn't bother you, I guess you can brush that off. Like, you're going to have it in the back of your mind. Like, someone cares about this.
Yeah.
And you may be able to use that to be like, how can I come at my best for this
No, you
next
can definitely
person?
use that.
Yeah.
And I think you should use that.
Yeah.
I feel like I do for sure. You know, if I say I'm going to do something,
Yeah.
and I have to do it. You know what I mean?
It's like somebody is engaged in this now.
And maybe now we're transitioning to like how we're doing the
Yeah.
building in public. But it always like strikes me because I feel like I'm just like documenting and sharing what I'm going through.
Yeah.
But then people like, they'll say like how inspired they were, and then they'll share that they made updates. So like recently, someone was like, just quit my job to be a full-time content creator. And then we're saying like how what I do is like was inspiring to them.
Yeah.
And like, you don't realize like
Yeah.
the impact that you might be having on people. And then, you know, I started the Data Entrepreneurs, which is like for people like me. You know, I started the Data Entrepreneurs when I was still working full-time, and I wanted to start like quit and go full-time entrepreneurship. And then I finally made that transition, and there are a lot of people who are in that scenario I was at, or they also, and maybe they're doing like side hustles and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I can't go back. Not
Right.
It's not for me, but like all those people who are kind of looking at my videos, like reading my blogs and following along, and they're like, whoa, this guy, like, hey, I'm a data scientist, he was a data scientist, and now he's doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
If I lose, it's not just me losing, it's like all the dreams, the hopes and dreams of all those people are also dying and losing. And so it's like, that's the added motivation for me that I feel kind of like keeps me going. It's like, if I was moving in silence, it would be easier to give up because I'm the only one affected.
Right.
But if I give up now, it's like this massacre of entrepreneurs
Dreams
and
just
dreams.
dying.
And,
Just
you know,
being slayed.
how can you live with that?
Shit. Showing about to cry right now. Before we kind of go into the how too, I want to talk about, like, this kind of ties into another point that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
It's just like you're building this tribe. You're building this like this. Like your values are on the line,
Right.
like your reputation's on the line. I feel like it's bigger than just like, I don't want to be embarrassing. It's like when you've made an impact on someone's life, you are their beacon of hope. Imagine if your faves, the ones you watch on a weekly basis, you listen to their podcasts, like that motivates you to start your business. That motivates you to keep doing your side hustle or whatever, or keep creating art. What if they're just like, sorry guys, can't do it, I'm tired? Like, how would that affect you? You'd probably be very disappointed because you're like, oh, I was trying to get to where you are. Now you're giving up. Why would I continue?
Right.
And like, imagine if the people who inspired you just gave up and you're like, oh shit, all of this was a lie. I was like really going to where they were taking me. And it's like, you could be that person for somebody, and you probably are that person for somebody.
You are, yeah.
And
there's
even if
always someone behind you.
There's always someone behind you, even if you're not online yet and you haven't put things out there. Your friends. There's people who depend on you for that area of their life, and if you give up, they have no reason to believe it's true anymore.
Yeah,
and
they don't think it's possible to
pursue,
like achieve your dreams.
Because most people are just like getting by. They're just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but this person has done it, and I have a community of people who are doing it. So like, imagine if your community group just said, well, peace out, we're done. Doesn't make any sense anymore. There would be no reason for you to continue.
Yeah.
So,
like your pastor was just
your pastor said, deuces, this is not real, bye. Like, you would feel like, oh, okay. Like, I think genuinely a lot of people would stop going to church.
Or like the president was just like, deuces,
figure it out.
This is a lie.
Like,
this isn't real.
You have no idea how much impact like that connection makes on your life. Like, even if you think about the people you look up to and just in your immediate circle, like, it makes a huge difference. And I think when you come out and go in public and say, like, this is what I stand for, this is why I believe this, and this is true, you are now holding people's dreams, like, in your content, your platform. And if you believe what you're talking about enough, I think it would affect you to know that people have just given up now that you've given up, you know?
Yeah.
And you don't want to do, I don't think anybody wants to do that. Like, and that's why the deeper reason is so important, because it's not, the more you go in your
it's
journey,
not about you, or
it's
about like whatever that
the mission,
vision, that mission is
that you're doing. So it's important. I would say the last upside, I'll just say one more upside, is that you can grow this tribe. You can grow this audience really quickly by putting your stuff out there, because you are like the constant reminder to them of this thing. So like, the positive, if you continue and you keep showing up, is like, you can grow this LinkedIn community, you can grow this Instagram community, this YouTube community, whatever. And now you have people to experiment with. Right. You have people to promote something with, to like trial and error on. Yep. That's what entrepreneurs wish they could have done back in the day. I was literally just talking to one, and he was like, if I had so many ups and downs, and actually like bad things that turn into good things, like that got like news, like attention, like from news stations. He's like, if I had to TikTok back then, could you imagine? It's like,
we can just move like 100 times faster now.
And I think that is such an advantage, but it also paralyzes us, because we think it's the options thing. Like we have too many options and we just do nothing. But it's like, the reach that a normal person has, TV brands that used to promote their stuff had to pay millions to get this kind of reach. And it's like, you have this literally on your iPhone.
In your pocket.
And it's like, you can talk about anything. You can promote anything. Of course, that doesn't negate that you have to put in work and put in reps and experiment and try over and over again. But that's what people had to spend millions to experiment.
Yeah.
To get a little 30-second snippet on a commercial that someone is gonna snooze, or on a commercial that somebody's not even paying attention to mute, and
They're
you
taking
have
a dump while that
you
commercial
have they're taking a dump, and it's like you have unlimited reps at this thing for free. And it's like, why wouldn't you use that to your advantage? Because you live in a day and age, like, of course, there's tons of downside that comes with this.
Yeah.
But there's also so much benefit
Yeah.
in acknowledging that you have the opportunity to grow an audience quickly from your home. Like, that's the epitome of get paid to live. It's like, you make your life work for you.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Be anti-fragile.
So I think that's just good. Like, you provide educational, entertaining, inspiring content, and you can grow community very quickly and actually do what entrepreneurs are meant to do: try and fail. Like, literally, that's the whole point.
That's the whole game.
Yeah, and you just have a built-in audience to do that if you put your stuff out there. And I mean, I think it makes it a lot faster. I guess literally, like what we're talking about, how can one build in public? I think we can talk about what we do to help other people know what it looks like. So you can do it. It's not that.
Because for everyone, it's going to look different.
Yeah.
Now, entrepreneurship is so unique. I feel like it's always so unique because you're essentially like, you're building a company, you're building a business, given your knowledge, past experience, skills, you know, your unique journey. And so the starting point of every business is unique because every individual has lived a unique life. You know what I mean? So when you're talking about building in public, it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah.
But of course, so I do think sharing how, like, what we're doing can just be some helpful examples, because I feel like we're doing it like sufficiently. Like, there's definitely some overlap, but we do it differently. So for me, it wasn't even like, there was no plan. And I think that's probably a very common feature for people, is that it's not like there was a master plan to any of it. It's just that they were doing it, and then they just started making content.
Yes.
And it happened. Yeah.
By the way, I want to express, like, it doesn't have there doesn't need to be some script.
Yeah, and
for how
usually
you're gonna do
there
this.
is no script.
Yeah, you should, and you shouldn't feel like you have to create a script. Like, the people you see who are showing their life, I would say a huge portion of them are not making this into some kind of like TV show storyline.
Right.
They're just showing what's happening in the moment.
Yeah. So for me, it started when I was in grad school, and I was getting my PhD. And as part of the PhD, you have to write a dissertation, which is just a very long document.
Yeah.
It's like a book, essentially. And so I would take sections of that book and put it on the internet as a blog post. And then I would take those blog posts and make YouTube videos out of them. And so it was a lot of educational content. And it wasn't me like building a company. It was me like my learning, like the things I was learning in data science and machine learning. And I was just documenting that. And so it became a way for me to structure my learning. You know, even after I graduated, content allowed me to have like a clear goal to help me learn new things. So, you know, I don't know, I have almost 100 YouTube videos now, so just a ton of content.
Do you really have over 100?
It's getting there. It's over 100 if you include shorts, but I don't post a lot of shorts, so I feel like I'm getting close to 100. Okay. So it was just that, and then came probably LinkedIn was the next thing I did seriously. We know there was that little thing on Instagram. It was Simple Success with Shaw, which was
productivity
cringe.
era. We had we did it together, but it was like we were posting
and
on this Instagram.
No one cared.
No one cared. It was a complete failure.
Yeah.
And who cares? But that's what's
no
so
one
funny.
No one remembers.
No one is gonna remember these things you had until you bring it up, and we even forgot that we had that.
Yeah.
There's so many past failures that no one remembers, and I urge you to, like, your favorite celebrity or whatever, like, look up all their businesses, look up all the TV shows they've made, look up every book or album they put out. You're gonna be like, whoa, I did not see half of this.
The thing is, like, when you flop on social media, no one saw it. Like, by definition, that's what a flop is, you know? So, okay, so the next big thing was LinkedIn. And I think that was important because I was doing long form content or medium form, because people, they say this is long form. So like a 20-minute YouTube video is not really long form, or a 10-minute read that's a blog is not long form. But I was doing these longer posts there. Okay. And then I started posting on LinkedIn, and I was just doing 3 times a week. And this is when I was still at Toyota.
Oh, wow. wow.
So I was working full time.
Yeah.
And I just started posting like 3 times a week. And for me, it's all about habit, you know?
Yeah.
It's not, I don't know, it's like even though like if you go back and look at those posts, they probably all suck. And even right now, my posts probably suck compared to them in the future. So that it was just a habit. And then I feel like at one point, I also started posting TikToks sporadically. And now I do that every week. I later added Instagram, where I basically repost LinkedIn onto my Instagram, and then I will repost TikToks onto Instagram. And most recently, I started posting on Twitter. And basically what that is I take my LinkedIn post, maybe tweak it a little bit, and just post it immediately on X.
Okay.
And then that's it. And then for me, I don't have a big following on, I mean, really any channel, but it's smallest on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
But I still post on TikTok because it allows me a place to experiment. So the thing is, I just try to make it 60 seconds. Like that's my only constraint. And I just try to make it something that I can repurpose somewhere else. So I'll try it on TikTok. If I like how it came out, even if I don't really like how it came out, I'll post it on Instagram and just to get more feedback. But if I like how it was on TikTok and Instagram, I'll post it as a YouTube short. So YouTube's where I have my biggest audience. And then I'm also posting those short form videos on LinkedIn sometimes as well, if I really like them. So I guess if you look now, there's like a system and strategy and structure to it. But when I started, it was literally like, okay, I learned this, I wrote this up in my dissertation, let me just make this a blog post. And then
Started off so simple.
Yeah, it just started super simple. And then that's where it's at now. I feel like right now, actually, I feel like I'm at this inflection point where up until now, it's just been like educational content. That's been the main focus. I have been posting about my journey, but that's really just been in the background, maybe one video a quarter. But people seem to like that. And I've also realized that the educational content is maybe it's just too much to chew. And I mean, I'm the same way. Like I have a ton of educational videos saved to my watch later, but I can't just like pop those on casually anytime. You know what I mean? It's like
you also watch everything on 2x speed.
Yeah. And so I'm starting to realize as a creator, like I know what it's like as an audience member for all this like bulky educational content. My videos just keep getting longer and longer.
Bulky is the funniest way to put it.
That's what it is. And so I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, I need to like reevaluate my strategy because I'm not in grad school anymore. I'm not working full-time anymore. Like if I want to be able to survive, I need to figure out how to make YouTube work for me.
Exactly.
And to help me like, build a business and, make some
that's
livable
also,
money.
It made me think of something, which is also interesting. It's like, sometimes we think it's like in the beginning as a creator, you think like, oh, I'm going to get all this hate, or I'm going to get people who don't like me, or like you get very like obsessive and anxious over that, which is like, it's probably not going to be like that unless you come with a very strong stance from the jump, which takes a lot of...
It's usually just crickets.
It's usually crickets. Like the feedback is actually no one cares.
Right, it's no feedback.
And I think that's what's so funny is you think, oh, I'm so scared. People are going to take my ideas. People hate me. And that makes you way too important from the jump. And there's very few people who are that important from the jump. So I feel like what is also helpful to see here is getting like no feedback is feedback. It's not good enough yet. It's not where it needs to be. If I can't survive off of my content, and that's one of my goals, I need to take in this feedback of like no feedback to improve. So I think that's
it's just having that growth mindset is just taking, I've been saying this to you for whatever reason over the past few weeks, but I like what life is all about is taking lemons and making lemonade. I think an ancient
Facts.
Stoic philosopher said this.
Totally.
No,
What
no,
brand do you think he was drinking?
no, but it wasn't lemons to lemonade, but it's basically like, you know, what you're supposed to do is to take everything life gives you, the good and the bad, and to turn it into good. Like that's,
It's honestly so true.
yeah, but lemons into lemonade, everyone's heard that line, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it like, and I don't even know where that came from because like he just started saying this one week and it just never stopped.
Yeah.
But
But do you know what a lemon is? It's like an L. It's like a
it
loss.
is an L. Oh,
You know
that's
what I
actually
mean?
kind of fun. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's a
that's why
L.
they call it. I think it used to be slang for a loss. That's where it came from.
I feel like I don't know. It's just so true because a lot of times we kind of get in that victim fix mindset. Where we're like, God, this problem came and hit me from the sky, or this thing is bothering me, or like everything is always against you.
Yeah, what was that line? What would it take for this to be amazing?
Yeah, like we were watching a podcast episode with Hormozy, and he was saying this psychologist that his psychologist friend was like, would ask their clients when they came with something tragic that just happened to them. And note that word, this happened to me. This is happening to me. If you think or you're starting to talk in that language, this is like an indicator. How can I change this script? Because we like to think things are happening to us. This problem happened to me. This person is hating on me. And it's like, but if you're good, why would that affect you? And you need to start thinking about it like, it's not that something's happening to me. This is something I don't know how to overcome. And back to the therapist or the psychologist, that person would ask their clients, like, how can you make this amazing? I think
it was like, what would it take
what
for
would it
this?
take? What would it take for this to be amazing?
No.
And it forces you to be back in the driver's seat and say, like, I'm not just some victim where this meteor just came and hit me. It's like, well, maybe if I had the skills, I could have pivoted and the meteor would have hit something else and I would be fine. And I think that's how you have to start thinking of problems in your life to be growth mindset.
Yeah. So lemons to lemonade.
Lemons to lemon. I think you were just saying like, actually, I don't know why you brought that up, which is kind of
hilarious.
always the case. But I don't know. I just think it's so true.
We were talking about like.
You were talking about like your. Oh
yeah. The no feedback. Basically.
No feedback.
As a creator, you just gotta take all the information.
Yeah.
The good comments, the bad comments, and the no comments. Like every, like I don't know, like nanogram of data.
Point.
Yeah. Any piece of data, because like when you first start out, there's not enough information to make a decision. So you have to, it's so much guesswork and so much trial and error.
So much guesswork.
You know?
Yeah.
And so you just got to take whatever you can and try to turn it into something.
And it makes you get creative.
Yeah.
When you have no data, what do you have to do? You have to start paying attention to every little thing. And I think it's ironic because I feel like that's the phase I'm in. Or probably this whole year, I've been in this area of like, I don't have enough feedback. So I'm having to reach out to people. I'm having to post content on every platform I think that aligns. Like I'm having to reach out to brands, reach out to my friends, like reach out to strangers. It forces you to get creative. And I think that's what being an entrepreneur is. It's like trying and failing things, getting creative. And that's where you start to make discoveries because you're trying things people are not trying. You're learning things people aren't learning. Also, when you're having to do everything, you have to read books to learn how to do this. If you need to run ads, I need to take a course. Like you're having to just stretch yourself. And I'm at this point where I'm like, I'm doing like so many different things at the same time. Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, Pinterest even, writing blogs, doing UGC, working for clients. Like I'm doing everything under the sun of like what I think could work. And these are, by the way, like it's not like I started doing this all at once. I just would do one thing, not enough feedback, do another thing and maintain what I was doing and like keep adding things on. And I think hopefully I'm getting to the point where I can start narrowing because I finally have hit a discovery or I finally have like found a signal from all these little individual ventures I have going on, which I think I've talked about this in the last episode or two, which is like I'm starting to see that from my content, posting videos up the wazoo about everything in my life, like literally just using any story from my life or anything I'm passionate about to put content out there and see what people care about. I'm getting a signal that people really are struggling with their jobs and leaving their jobs and how to start this. And my whole mission has been, go to your dream life, but like most people are nowhere near their dream life.
Right.
And
they don't even know where to start.
They don't even know where to start. And for me, my whole journey started when I quit my job.
Yeah.
And it's something that has consistently been more interesting compared to my other content to people than anything else I've posted. And it's like, it took one mindset shift in my brain to be like, oh, that's what's interesting to people. Reading one book that took that, like something that was already there and made it into an opportunity. And I think, I don't think I would have ever come across this unless I was just talking about it, like putting it out there and documenting everything. And my approach, a little different than yours, was like, I just started posting on TikTok about anything.
Yeah.
Like, I started posting about the products I liked. And I think that's an approach that people don't promote enough, because they're like, come in with a niche, come in strong. But if you're someone who doesn't exactly know what you want to say, I would just say talk about anything you're interested in and see what people resonate with. People resonated with my products, but it wasn't enough to like make a whole career out of. But as I started to post more about my journey, what I believe in, I would get comments actually from friends. Like people are like, the way you speak motivates me. The way you talk about things makes me think differently. And that aligns with what I want to do in life, you know? Whereas I always want to talk about my fashion, my products, my travel. This, you kind of have to know your edge, and you only know that through experimentation.
Yeah.
Like some girls can post their outfit and that will floor anybody else. You know what I mean? And like, I'm not that person, or I'm not that person right now. You know what I mean? And I know that. Like you can tell if you keep posting something, what tends to do better. But me just ranting, that will floor all of my content, and like that was the least amount of effort. So it's like you have to.
That's perfect.
It's a perfect mix, and that's what happens when you put your stuff out there. You get the feedback eventually, even if it's slow in the beginning.
Yeah. And you've been through it. You've quit content like at least 3 times.
I've like, and it's not this linear thing at all. Like I couldn't even explain. This started from when I was like 15 years old. I was a Tumblr girl. I was the girl online every night. Like I can't even tell you how much I was like chronically online. I probably still am, but you know, life is different now. I feel like content has been a part of my life for a long time. I was moving in silence for a long time, literally for like 5 years. That got me nowhere. So I can tell you for a fact that even building in public, it's taking a long time. Even sharing everything I could possibly share that's not my social security number is taking years. So imagine how much time you're wasting by gatekeeping this content that sucks. You're gatekeeping content that sucks. And I think that's something that I needed to hear. No one cares yet because it's not good enough. But when you put it out and you get negative feedback, positive feedback, you make it better. And when you keep making better and better and better content, you actually become good.
Yeah.
And then that's where people actually pay attention. And again, this could be in person as well. If you're doing something, if you're having events or you're having seminars or conferences or whatever you're trying to build, a community of yoga people or whatever, you keep having those events. You keep showing up to coffee chats. You keep talking to people. I think there's another thing you and I have done other than social media and content.
Doing
is
events,
in-person stuff, actually connecting with people one-on-one. Like that's something I've taken on this quarter, and I really enjoy it. Like I was like, oh, I don't want to be stimulated. I'm going to have to be having meetings with everybody. And that's kind of what I hated about corporate and freelancing, was constant meetings and constant whatever. But there's an element to seeing somebody in person and talking to them about what you're passionate about that makes you feel so confident about what you're doing. Like, so you can come online even better.
Yeah, because you get like that real world feedback. You know?
Actually know what people are thinking when you're talking to them. I know it sounds crazy, but like that's the only downside I feel like, or not only, that's one of the downsides of just the one-to-many. Sometimes you don't get that
you don't get clean data
information exactly from someone's mouth. Now when I'm making this products or my products, I'm like, no, I actually heard them say it. I have a recording of them saying this is an issue for them.
Right.
And
I think, you get their body language, you get their tonality.
You know how to address the pain point now when you show up on TikTok or YouTube or whatever. Like, you know what's happening. And I think you and I have you've done a better job than me, but like of asking for feedback from real people, like not just followers. Like, you always ask your friends, like, did you like, what did you like, what did you not like? Because even if it's uncomfortable at first, like for you or the person, it's very helpful to know how different people view you.
If you can get like honest feedback out of people, like that's a super valuable skill set to have.
Yeah, I think so. So just like, I feel like post things, put yourself out there and network, like use the network to your advantage. Meet up with people. I've met up with people online that I've met up with my friends.
Yeah, and that's a hidden, or not really hidden, but just a benefit of content creation that people don't realize.
Yeah.
Is that when you have a big following, it gives you a certain legitimacy.
Yeah.
So when you do that one-on-one reach out, people are more responsive.
They can trust something. You have the social proof. It makes it easier for them.
Yeah,
because
because like when I do outreach on LinkedIn, like 50% people will respond. Like when I'll like say, hey, I'm
even
thinking,
if you don't know them.
Yeah, even if I've never met them.
Yeah.
Because most of my followers I haven't met. Like most of the people I've connected with on LinkedIn I haven't met. So this last quarter I was like exploring a few different workshop ideas, like doing these like AI courses, AI workshops, AI lectures or events. And so I was just like, doing outreach to people, and 50% of people responded, which I feel like is above like a typical.
I would say it's so.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably closer to like 20% is
or
a
even
typical.
like 10.
Yeah,
Maybe.
10%.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. So I feel like that's like the actual groundwork we're doing. And then just to kind of like summarize like mental things, I think is one, I think over time, as you just keep putting yourself out there, these things will just stick in your brain. You'll just have to like get over it. It's kind of like the best way to combat anxiety about anything is just to do that thing, because you have experience doing the thing. I would say one, understand that these internal voices will be there. They will be there. The, oh my God, this is cringe. This is embarrassing. The doubt. What if I fail? Understand that will come, and understand that you can move on from that. Because I'm at a point, like a few years ago, I thought I had to make a whole new account just to post on TikTok. I don't have those thoughts anymore. And even if they come up for some new level or echelon I'm getting to, I'm like, well, I've done it before. I've posted knowing people in my network, so it's not as scary. So you have to understand that the voices will be there, but you will develop skills to combat them. And those voices are keeping you safe, not necessarily happy. They're going to keep you safe, but not happy. And they're not going to help you get to your goal.
Yeah.
And you have to start thinking, and that's when things stop becoming about you. It's like, is this thought, is this pattern helping me get to my goals and helping the people I'm trying to help? It's probably no. So if it's not helping you or the people you're trying to help, what's the point of keeping it around? Why do it? So that's another thing, is like, take the focus off of yourself and make it more like, how can I be better for this thing I'm trying to do, for this mission I have, for this vision I'm trying to create. Just make it a little bit more objective and less emotional. Because you will suck. Like, you will suck. You will hate the videos from the beginning. You will be like, oh, that was so bad. That's going to happen regardless. Even if you came with like the best equipment and all your scripted stuff, compared to future you, what you're doing now is going to suck. So what's the point of trying to make it perfect anyway? Just put it out there and say, like, how can I achieve this goal? And you will become better, guaranteed, with that mindset. And then another thing is just, this sounds like a negative thing, but it's a very positive thing. Like, people don't care about you. Like, so in a
liberating way.
It's a liberating thing.
Yeah.
Like, constantly remind yourself of that, because one, it'll either...
No one's paying attention. Like, I couldn't force my friends to watch my videos.
Yeah, I know. Like, that's... And don't try. Like, I know there's like this whole thing of like, oh, my friends aren't supporting me. Like, some people don't like that,
They're just not the audience.
They're not the audience. And actually, that's a good thing. Like, you don't want...
Artificial
boosting.
Audience members, yeah.
I used to be like, oh, my friends, like, they a lot of my friends are supportive. But like, there was a time where like in the beginning, like, I wasn't getting the feedback I thought. And it's like, that is feedback in and of itself. If your friends, even if they are or aren't in your audience, don't find your stuff interesting, that means there's room to grow. And use that instead of trying to artificially fix it.
Try
It's
to
like,
understand
why. Ask them, like, why would you not? Like, why isn't this appealing to you?
Yeah.
Like, use that information. And that's how you can make it a positive thing. That's how you can turn it into lemonade. And then you can improve based on their feedback. And then also, you don't have to feel so insecure or feel like you have to be the expert, because probably no one's going to see your content. And that's actually a good thing in the beginning, because you're probably going to have a lot of things wrong. You're probably going to have shitty content and not the best stuff. So like, it's actually great if you mess up, because no one's going to see it. And then also, people will tell you if you messed up, and so you can fix it for next time. So you're not at 1 million followers and still messing up. You know what I mean? A huge thing for building in public to help you keep going and to help you put yourself out there is like, think about how valuable this is going to be to you the people around you, like 5 years from now.
Right.
Like, seeing this journey, like just for your sake, even like
just documenting it for yourself.
Yeah, like literally your diary. Everybody finds it so fun to like look back at, like, oh, what was I thinking back then?
Like the old photo albums.
Yes,
like
everybody
your
does
parents'
that.
photo albums and stuff.
It's really nice to see how far you've come, and it actually motivates you to keep going, because you're like, wow, look how far I've come in just this short time. Look how much of a better creator I am. Look how much of a better speaker I am, an educator I am. Whatever you're doing, like, you're gonna get to see all that. And I think a lot of us don't document our stuff, so we think nothing's happening. And it's easy to think that because you have no evidence of what you've done. But confidence comes from that repetition and seeing evidential, like seeing facts and figures and real tangible things that I've done this and I've overcome this.
Yeah.
And if you keep seeing that you're overcoming and getting better, you're going to want to keep getting better. And I think that's even why we wanted to start this podcast, which is like, we're already having this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Might as well record it and post it.
Yeah, and we can look back on it and be like, wow, look how young we were. Look how much we didn't know. And like, I still watch some of my old YouTube videos and I'm like, wow, like nothing has changed. But at the same time, a lot of things have changed. Yeah. So I think you see that it gives you hope for the future, because you're like, I had the same vision I did back then, and now it's just getting clearer.
Yeah.
Now I'm just getting better. So imagine a few years from now, you know? So
I love it.
That is what we'll leave you with. Thank you again for watching. And if you're building, if you're putting yourself out there, I always love to like have everybody drop it in the comments, just because like, I feel like, like there needs to be more of us doing that, because it's just saving everybody else more time. And like, imagine, like, think of all the time you've saved because somebody put their shit out there for you. So thanks for being here. Thanks for letting us build in public with you. And I hope it's helpful. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode.
Wow.